How can you sleep for 8 hours and still wake up feeling like you need another 8? You haven't run a marathon. You haven't worked all night. Maybe you barely did anything yesterday. And yet, you're already tired. Tired of answering messages. Tired of making decisions. Tired of concentrating. Sometimes even tired of things you normally enjoy. So you start wondering, what's wrong with me? Maybe you're becoming lazy. Maybe you're losing motivation. Maybe your brain just doesn't work the way it used to. But what if none of those are true? What if your body has been resting, while your mind has been working overtime? Because exhaustion isn't always caused by how much you physically do. Sometimes, it's caused by how much your brain never gets to stop processing. And once you understand what your mind is doing all day, your unexplained tiredness starts to make a lot more sense. But there's one hidden source of mental exhaustion most people never count. The hundreds of tiny decisions they make before the day is even over. Your body can be sitting still while your brain is processing one thing after another. What should I reply? What should I eat? Should I answer that email now or later? Did I make the right decision? What do I need to remember tomorrow? Each decision seems tiny, but your brain still has to evaluate it. And that's where the exhaustion quietly builds. You don't notice the weight of one decision. You notice it after hundreds. By the afternoon, even simple choices can start feeling strangely difficult. That's why you can finish a normal day and feel mentally exhausted without knowing why. Your brain never got a real clock out. It kept switching, evaluating, choosing, remembering, predicting. And here's the uncomfortable part. Even when you finally stop working, you often don't stop asking your brain to process. Which brings us to the biggest mistake people make when they're exhausted. They think they're resting when they're actually giving their brain something else to process. So you finally finish your work and tell yourself, I deserve a break. You sit down, pick up your phone, watch a few videos, check social media, maybe open one more app, then another. An hour disappears, and somehow you still don't feel rested. Because you stopped working, but you never stopped consuming. Your brain is still taking in information. New faces, new opinions, new sounds, new stories, new things to react to. It feels like rest because your body isn't doing anything difficult. But mentally, you're still receiving, still processing, still switching from one piece of information to the next. That's why scrolling can leave you strangely empty instead of refreshed. Real recovery isn't always about finding something more entertaining. Sometimes your brain needs the opposite. Less input, less noise, less information demanding your attention. Because if every break becomes another stream of content, your brain never gets the quiet it needs to recover. And this is where most people make the mistake that keeps him tired. They keep trying to escape exhaustion with more stimulation. So what do you actually do when your brain feels exhausted? Not another productivity trick. Not another video about how to optimize your morning. You need to give your brain something it rarely gets anymore. Less. First, create a short period with no incoming information. Put the phone away. No scrolling. No podcast. No notifications. Just walk. Sit. Look outside. Or do something simple without feeding your attention. Second, protect the thing that actually restores you. Sleep. If you're regularly getting enough time in bed, but still waking up exhausted, don't assume it's just your phone or your mindset. Persistent fatigue can have many causes, including poor sleep quality and sleep disorders. And third, stop treating every quiet moment like a problem that needs to be filled. Waiting in line? Don't automatically reach for your phone. Walking somewhere? Let your mind wander. Eating? Just eat. Because your brain doesn't need to be entertained every minute it's awake. Sometimes, doing less is exactly what lets your mind recover. And once you stop constantly feeding your brain, you finally discover what was actually making you tired. Maybe you've been blaming yourself for being tired, calling yourself lazy, unmotivated, undisciplined. But think about your day again. Your body may have been sitting still, while your mind was answering, choosing, switching, remembering, reacting, and consuming. Then when you finally got a break, you filled that break with more information. So maybe the problem was never that you weren't resting enough. Maybe you never learned what real rest actually feels like. And if you're constantly exhausted despite getting enough sleep, don't ignore it. Persistent fatigue can have many causes, and sometimes the right answer isn't another productivity hack. It's talking to a healthcare professional. But if your brain simply never gets a moment of quiet, start there. Tonight, give yourself a few minutes with nothing to consume. No scrolling, no notifications, no pressure to be productive. Just let your mind exist without asking it to perform. Because real rest isn't doing something more relaxing. Sometimes it's finally doing less. And maybe you're not tired because you're doing too much. Maybe you're tired because your mind hasn't been allowed to stop.